They hail from around the globe, and though separated by oceans, they gather in the virtual world for reasons as varied as their locales. Whether it's a defending champion looking to retain his title, a new and eager hopeful striving for recognition, or a legend prepared to recapture past glory, in the end, the one goal they all share is to win. But when naming a victor, only one driver's name can be etched into the record books. You're watching the Heusinkveld MX-5 World Tour.
In the Pro class, 2 races, 2 different winners. In the AM class, on-track excitement that has been arguably more intense than what the pros have offered up. The venue? How about America's National Park of Speed? If all of that doesn't whet your appetite for this upcoming broadcast, then there's something wrong with your saliva glands. Today, it's the Heusinkveld MX-5 World Tour Round 3 from Road America. And you can see all the simulated Mazda action from green flag to victory donuts live as it happens right here on the Global Sim Racing channel. From the Badger State, hello and welcome to another GSRC broadcast. Way up in the press box to bring you our bird's eye view is yours truly, Bill Soupson, joined by the fan belt himself, Johan Vanderbilt. Joe Peak is on assignment, but fear not, we have the Doctor of Pits Topology, the winner of the very first GSRC broadcasted event ever, Amjad Yaman, in the director's chair, armed with cameras locked and loaded by Dougie Beard. Johan, the Heusinkveld MX-5 World Tour only stops in the state twice this season, and this place is one of them.
Yeah, and the first stop today is Road America, located near Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Now, after World War II, road racing became more and more popular all over the world, and in 1950 race cars saw the asphalt for the first time in Elkhart Lake. These first events were hosted on public road courses, and after 3 years of racing it was already banned after a crash killed a spectator. Racing had to be made safer, which directly led to the track we see today, Road America. Personally seen as one of the best tracks the United States has to offer, this circuit was constructed in 1955. One of the things that makes Road America so special for me is that it is one of the only racetracks in the world that still uses its original layout. The 6.5 kilometer course features 14 corners and many elevation changes. But more importantly, however, today will be the long straights of the circuit. The Mazda MX-5 on track will spend a big part of the lap on full throttle, and combined with the draft, it will surely create some pack racing. But being on full throttle for the better part of the lap doesn't mean that this track is easy. You have to be picture perfect to get the maximum out of your car, and to see how that looks like, let's hop on board the GSRC Mazda MX-5 for a lap around Road America.
Alright, we've got Stefan Schlacker in the GSRC MX-5, so let's do a lap around Road America. Down the front stretch, this is one of the prime places to use the draft to slipstream by your opponent. You can still try to outbrake them through turn 1, but it's so much easier to pass them on the straight. Plus, the exit of turn 1 can sometimes catch drivers out by clipping the grass and sending them spinning to the opposite wall. From there, you've got a slight downhill into turn 3. This is one of the most important corners on the track because of it leading onto the moraine sweep. You really don't want to overdrive your entry because it'll leave you a sitting duck on the way down to 5. You'll essentially just straighten out the stretch here, so we'll skip this part and jump to the braking for the next corner. Here at 5, the little bit of a kink in the downhill entry makes it very easy to outbrake yourself. In fact, a lot of race-ending accidents happen on the first lap when things get stacked up here. After that, you climb back up towards 6. The crest right at the entry makes it a very narrow margin of error to hit the fast line. Plus, you won't be able to spot your apex until you're pretty committed. That takes us towards turn 7, which is easily flat out in the MX-5, but I still wouldn't advise trying it too wide. Now, as we come through the hurried downs, you've reached turn 8. This offers chances for a sneak attack because of it being a relatively slow corner. If someone is tucked up behind you, keep your guard up. Immediately, you've got to switch sides to set up for the carousel. As in every car, patience is required to not let it drift out into the marbles and dirt. And yet, because the MX-5 isn't that high-powered, squaring off the exit is going to be critical to a good lap. Fail to keep your momentum and everyone's gonna be on the attack. But before you hit the fastest part, you've got to swing through the kink, which is also flat out in the Miata. Just pray that you don't catch traffic and get slowed up. Jumping forwards to the end of the kettle bottoms, the braking for Canada Corner tends to cause accidents through miscommunication or just plain coming in too hot. This is where you finally leave the thick woods and return to the sunshine of Bill Mitchell Bend. The car likes to get squirrely over this blind crest, and you could find yourself with some serious damage if you overcorrect the car. You won't have much time before you're chucking it into the final corner. This is another one where I'd advise not overdriving the entry. The front stretch is the longest straight on the circuit, and it has this crazy steep uphill climb to boot. Every ounce of speed that you can get from the engine of the MX-5 will count. But hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Road America.
Joe Peak's not here with us today, but his voice reminds us of his presence as he talks and takes us around Road America. Let me take you around the point standings right now. And when we look at this, I'm going to talk a little bit about the two guys up on top. Robert Hartley has a win and a second. Sonny Ketchen has a win and a third. But there's bonus points. And I don't want to drill down too deep on this because you'll get glassy-eyed. But let me just tell you this. There are bonus points for miles per incident, and that's where Hartley has a 6-point advantage over Ketchen. Hartley sits third overall on that standings, while Ketchen sits ninth. But there's a new rule this season, something called the oops bonus, and that's for you get one mistake. It's not a dropped race, but if you have one bad result and you show up in enough events, they'll let you take a little bit off of that mistake. It's a kind of a just for showing up. It's a present for that. And that's where Sonny Ketchen picks up 7 bonus points. He gets to erase a little bit of his third place finish. So when it's all said and done, you can see that they are 6 points apart. So close that bonus points matter. Let's talk about the next guys down. Marcelo Pajan and Steven Van Opstrow. Pajan has a second and a third. Van Opstrow up from the AM class into 4th position. Then Gene Fittis, Stelian Chepelewski, and Daniel Hunt are all tied for 5th. All right, let's go down to the AM Championship, which has really been fun to watch. Johan?
Yeah, exactly. It's been a very fun championship so far, and Kip Stevens is the one who's leading that championship with 144 points scored. The British driver is currently on top. Björn de Vries, one of the drivers that is not able to make it today, is in second, 10 points adrift from the English driver. In front of a Dutch duo, Erik Koeman 17 points behind, and 1 point behind him is Stefan Veenhoff in P4. A new name that we see in this championship in the top 5 is Jordi Fike. Jordi had a good race last time around at Suzuka, gained 5 positions, and is now sitting in the top 5, but he has 36 points adrift of Kip Stevens.
Those guys put on a great show last time as the battling was really, really super down there at the bottom. And the cut line has been perfect on that AM Championship. We don't have any sneakers in there that are racing for the championship in the overall class. All right, practice is going on right now. They're yet to start their qualifying. Let's go ahead, Johan, and talk about the race details. Get those out of the way.
Yeah, this is season 16 of the Heusinkveld World Tour, the Mazda World Tour. It is round 3 of an 11-round championship. That means there's 2 races shorter than last season, but still 11 races in 12 weeks. That means that the drivers are in for a packed schedule. The season finale, however, is a double-distance, double-points race. So really everything is to play for until the end of the championship. Now the setters today are open. That means that the drivers can tweak it just to their liking, but there is one stop. The fuel tanks are slightly limited, so the drivers have to make a pit stop in this 18-lap race we see today. And like you just mentioned, Bill, there's no incident cap, but there is the miles per incident bonus points that are able to be won by the drivers if they do not go off track.
You know, Spa is one of those tracks where you can go off and steal some time. Road America, maybe, at least for me, that way too, Johan. Is this the kind of place where you can cut some corners in the MX-5, maybe save a little distance or not?
I think so, especially when you're trekking out. Of course, it is such a track with long straights, so keeping up your momentum and keeping up your speed is incredibly important. And even if you just trek out a little bit further, even if you just win a couple of kilometers an hour that way, that can make a huge difference at the end of a straight. So I do think that even though there's a lot of grass patches on the exit of corners here, which might spin you around to lose you time, in some cases it is worth it to just trek out and maybe score an off track, maybe score a little bit less, go to the MPI championship. but win some time with that on track.
Yeah, and the way that they do it in this series, they manage with no incident cap, but nevertheless, it's there because that MPI standings, wherever you finish in that at the end of the season, that's worth one race. So if you are the leader, you get 100 points in that. They ration it out throughout the season, so it doesn't skew the standings. But at the end of the season, if you're at the top of that, it's worth 100 points. If you're second, it's 90, just like a race. And so that's kind of cool. You can't afford to be too crazy, especially if you're in a tight points race like Kanchan and Hartley are. We're looking there at Jacob Tufts.
Yeah, Jacob Tufts currently not setting a lap time yet. None of the drivers have set a lap time yet, with already 5 minutes of the 10-minute qualifying in the books. Now, of course, this is a 2-minute and 30-second track, so it takes quite a while before the first drivers will be lapping around and will set their first lap times. Jacob Tufts was around the 20th position in practice. Let's see where he ends up in qualifying, although in front of him we see Sonny Kenshin going to P1. Sonny Kenshin setting a 1:32.1, that's 3/10 slower than he was in practice. He is 1/10 in front of Steven van Opstel, but Travis Swenke grabs P1 now.
Qualifying coming in, there's Swenke at the top. You know, we were looking at Jacob Tufts. He's part of the Sim Sports News group, one of our sponsors here that sponsors the post-race show. There's Travis Swenke. There's back to Jacob Tufts again. Jacob's still looking to put in that qualifying run as we look on board. You can see that Wisconsin sky pushing down on the racetrack. Let's take a quick look at the weather, Johan, and see what kind of effect that may have on the racing.
Yeah, it's quite of a bad weather day here in Wisconsin today. It's overcast, 26 degrees, both on track, ambient and track temperature, 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Quite a bit of wind though, you can see. It's currently a western wind, 9 miles per hour. That's calculated to kilometers, around 16 kilometers an hour. But more importantly, the wind direction has been changing. At the beginning of qualifying, it was coming from the southeast. You see now that it's coming from the west. So that means that the drivers have to keep that in mind. And especially on a track like this, where the draft will be so important, the pack racing will be so important, the wind might be a huge factor.
Holy smokes, the Viking, Tom Eric the Red Ball, sitting at the top of the qualifying charts now, puts in a 2:31.9. Where did that come from?
And he's quite a way adrift as well from the rest of the field. You can see on top of the screen over a tenth quicker than P2. That might not seem like a lot, but P2 to P6, P7 even is within 1/10 of a second. So that's quite a bit of time that Tom Eric is in front of the rest.
Memory serves, I believe he is from Norway. That's why he picked up. Yep, sure enough. Did a little double check in there. That's how he picked up Eric the Red. He's out there in a blue machine, though. Swenke in second. Stelian Chepelevsky in third. Look at this coming on. Boy, we don't see Sonny Kenshin until down there in seventh. But, Johan, there's some tracks where qualifying is a huge part of the race. Here, maybe not so much.
No, absolutely not. Like I said, the draft will be a very big factor in this race, and once the green flag drops, most drivers will be able to stay very close together. Sonny Kenshin, however, is coming over the start-finish line. Let's see if he improves his 32.1. He actually does. He goes to a 31.9. Currently 14 thousandths of a second behind Tom Eric Vol, but still not a pole position for Sonny. He has to settle for P2 for now.
Passing corners will be corner number 1, corner number 5, down into Canada. And of course, like Johan always says, every corner is a passing corner, right?
Well, it is true, every corner is a passing corner, but one of the things that you of course have to realize, and maybe some of the veteran viewers, especially the drivers, will know it, is if you are in a draft battle, it is sometimes better to not make an overtake in every corner. Make an overtake where it costs you the least amount of time. For example, turn 3. In the draft, you're probably easily able to put a car side by side and make the overtake stick, but you lose a half a tenth of a second if you do that, and that will hurt you. That might actually lose you the draft. So it's really, you are able to make an overtake in basically every corner, but you have to pick your pedals today.
Drivers race with a restricted fuel tank, so they'll have to come in for fuel. They'll have to take enough fuel where they're able to change two tires, either left sides or right sides, without it costing them any time. If they take 4 tires, they'll have to wait for the tires to finish. I would assume at this track with the carousel and the kink and the corner 4 and corner 1, I'm taking left sides. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. It's a clockwise track, and I would change the left side tires. That's probably what most of the drivers will go for, I imagine, out there.
All right, I've learned my lesson. I haven't been lead for a while, but I know when we get to about 30 seconds left in qualifying, I have to get to this plug. And of course, we want to talk about our sponsor. And as soon as I can find it, I'll tell you about it. It's Heusinkveld. They offer a broad array of products and services, including advanced vehicle simulation software and hardware, and sponsors on practically every major team in sim racing today. If you're looking for an edge in racing, get in touch today at Heusinkveld.com. And with that said, we'll take a look at the Heusinkveld starting grid. And it is Eric the Red, Eric Vall on the pole. He's going to be inside of Sonny Kenshin. Row 2 is populated by Daniel Hunt and Travis Swenke. Stelin Chepelevsky and Gene Fittis go 5th and 6th. The next row is Artem Koralski inside of David Hampson. Steven Van Opstroll is sided by Anwar Burrell-Smith. Johan?
Yeah, the first driver outside the top 10, Tom Ratje, starts in P11, but on the left side of him, Steve Heffert in P12. Marcelo Pagnan, that's a driver that you do not expect that far down the field, but he only starts in P13, the Italian driver, and he's being flanked by Jean-Franc Pernois. The first amateur driver we see on the grid today is Erik Koeman. He starts the race in 15th position. Next to him, Dexter Castro will start the race. Jordi Fike is the first driver on row 9, and he's being flanked by Jacob Tofts, and in row 10 it is Derek Holland in front of Kip Stevens.
A nice field of 29 today. In the Black Jacks box, Nick Thiessen, Matthew Smith behind him. Renald Leffiere in the 23rd position, Jamie Bugnot in 24th. Joe McDonald, old Joe back there in the quarter-century mark, he's going to side with Mick Berry. Eric Garcia in 27th. Last two drivers, Mike Watson and Adam McNally. All right, it is time for round 3. New name up in front, Tom Eric Vall. He's a veteran. We've seen him around for a while. Just doesn't have a lot of MWT experience. Boy, you can see the cloudy day that we have in front of us. Pan, oh, look at those drivers all lined up, getting the anticipation for this start to begin. Wait for the engines to start to harmonize. There's our flyby over the top. Gather up the chickens, take cover on the cows. The horses are indeed out of the barn. Tom Eric Vall is your leader, flanked by Sonny Kenshin. Daniel Hunt back in 3rd position. Stelin Chepelevsky looking on him. Rounding out your top 5, Travis Swenke as they work through corner 1.
Artem Koralski almost loses it, hitting the grass in turn 1. He actually gets snap oversteer. He hits the wall.
Koralski qualified in 7th. By the time he gets going, he's going to be well back.
He's 100% in last position at the moment, but apart from him, a very clean start. The top 10 almost immediately separated itself from the rest of the field. Both Tom Ratje and Steve Heffert having a bad start compared to the rest of the top 10, able to distance themselves. But at the moment, you can already see that a 5-car train has formed itself in the rundown towards turn 5.
You can see back in 15th, that was Castro trying to defend off Tough, and now a pass for 9th position as Heffert gets around Anwar Burrell-Smith.
Daniel Hunt there fighting with Stefan Gevreski. Both cars had slight contact, it almost seems like. But they should stop fighting with each other, because look at the gap that Sonny Kenshin is already having. 0.6 of a second in front of the rest. Almost seems like Daniel Hunt is losing a little bit of draft.
Vall, who started now, is falling back as he's down into 5th position. Kenshin has taken over the lead. Conspicuous by his absence is our point leader. Hartley not here today, but there are no show compensation, so he doesn't need to worry too much. Kenshin beginning to open it up now, a half second up on Daniel Hunt.
Yeah, behind them a single file through the kink. The field gets a little bit cut off by Gene Fittis. It's quite of a big grab for that P1 position. Daniel Hunt is back in the draft of Sonny Kenshin.
Drivers get it woed up as they work through Canada. Now Hunt right on the back of Kenshin as they head to that final corner. Would not be surprised if Daniel doesn't put a move in if he wants the lead, or again, maybe he just wants to sit back there and save fuel. Let's see how he plays it. 2 car lengths back, 1 car length back, the half car length back. He has the momentum. He pulls to the inside. Side by side, he's going to bring along with him Stelian Chepelevsky. Stelian's going to come in there and take over second, maybe more. A little bump draft there, telling Daniel to get going. Move Kenshin back to third.
Yeah, so Daniel and Chepelevsky helping each other a little bit here to not only work together, have a little bit of extra speed, but also both of them overtaking Sonny Kenshin. And this is not the best or the worst news for Sonny Kenshin. He might actually be glad to drop back a little bit, save some fuel behind the 2 leaders.
What we're going to do is check in on the AM Championship now. It looks like 14th position. Eric Coleman comfortably away from anybody. He's got Dexter Castro behind him, but Castro's a pro driver. Jacob Tuff. Nice little battle for 17th. Can we take a look at this one? This is Nick Thiessen. Yeah, we're going to find here in a minute. This is Thiessen just ahead of Jacob Tuff. So they continue to fight it out. Tuff dropping back a little bit.
Dexter Castro in front of them having quite a bit of difficulties in turn 5. Also cutting the corner in turn 6 quite a bit. The pro driver losing connection a little bit to the rest of the field. But as you were saying, Bill, Erik Koeman is doing a superb job in the amateur race so far, as he's by far the guy. Oh, there's a spinner in front of him. That's David Hampson going too loose, too quick into turn 8. Couldn't get the car slowed down. Went in for a spin.
Yeah, he was racing in 7th position. It looked like he was going to get up on the back of Van Ofstrel, and then was worried he was going to punt him, and he goes off a little bit onto the grass, and there's no coming back from that.
Once he touches that grass, he goes around. Now, luckily for him, he doesn't have any damage. That cost him quite a bit of time. But like I said, Erik Koeman is the only amateur driver that is in the gigantic cackle of pro driver cars. This is the first 14 cars. They're basically very close together in a pack. And there's only one amateur driver there, and that's Erik Koeman. Now the Dutch driver will love that, because of that he will be able to draft away from the rest of the amateur drivers and will start making moves up in the championship, in the Formula 2 or in the amateur championship.
And the way they score the amateur championship, it's all about where you finish on the racetrack. So every pro driver he puts between him and his competition is just a larger gap in the points. Look at him coming at you.
Daniel Hunt got overtaken last time around during the lap by Chmiewski. He doesn't want to keep it that way though. Overtakes him back in the rundown towards turn 1.
Eric Voll has worked his way back up to 3rd now. Kenshin just happy to let these guys race in front of him. I think even giving him a little bit of a gap so he doesn't get involved in anything that happens in front. The lead train, Johan, goes really all the way back to our AM driver, Eric Coleman, in 13th.
Yeah, exactly. The cars just keep going. And this is what we were talking about earlier with that draft, that it will play such a big factor. It currently holds 13 drivers close together. And it is really the people behind him who are hurting. Dexter Castro, who had some difficulties last time around, seems to be a little bit quicker than Erik Koeman. And Jean-Francois Pernod in front of him, so he's clawing his way back to the draft. Oh, there's a spin there in front.
Now, but what happened on that one is Schwenke got into the back of Kenshin, going into, I don't know if that was 5 or 6, but then he got off. It must have been 6. Then he got off the gas, and then the accordion effect hits, and Gene Finnis turns him around, but really not Gene's fault.
Not at all. This is just a Constantiner effect, almost something that you were waiting for in the 13 car field. You see the incident now on board of. You can just see here that he slows down, but he just cannot avoid the suddenly braking Travis Schwenke and just turns him around.
Come back live and let's go up front as that's happening. We have a pass. Going into Canada on the outside, it's Daniel Hunt. He's got it. Vol stays in third. Kanchan in fourth.
Steve Havard currently going side by side with Nick Wiese to the kink. They're going side by side through the kink. Nick Thiessen, you're going over the grass like that. Barely misses the wall. But he does lose the position quite a bit of time to the people behind him. He's not under pressure though by Jacob Vos behind him. It's a little bit too far away.
And he's going to lose momentum actually. And I think as they continue to race side by side, that's Hefford on the inside, Thiessen on the outside. Thiessen with the momentum is going to get that spot into 13th, but they've lost touch now. Dexter Castro, I think, the caboose in the train. And they're close to losing a touch, aren't they? Boy, this is thinning out now.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with that little turnaround of Travis Schwenke. Oh, another guy. Now is Gene Fitters getting rear-ended in turn 1. That was by Steven van Opstal, who just braked a little bit too late. And that immediately breaks the group up as well. Tom Ratcher passing them, bringing himself to P8.
Yeah, the Bay State Hammer, Rathy out there in the 41 car, takes advantage of that, moves himself up into 8th position. Some aggressive racing going on, but all that stuff happening is thinning out the train. That's just what these guys up front want, Johan, right? Hunt, Chepelevsky, Ball. The less cars involved, the less they have to worry about.
Yeah, I was actually talking about this with the director, with Amjad, before the race. In a pack race like this, personally, whenever I'm in one, I want to be in around the position where Tom Eric Vol currently is in, P3. You have 2 cars in front of you, so you can save fuel, you can have a lot of profit with that in the pit stop, but you're also not in the back of the train, which you could see several times now, that even a small mistake that happens, even if other cars get spun around, you lose out, because suddenly cars disappear and you miss out of the draft. It's extremely important in a group like this that you're as far as forward as you can be, but not all the way in front, that you will basically break the draft for everybody. And you can see that 5 drivers have profited from that. Those are Hunt, Chepelevsky, Vol, Kanchan and Burrell Smith.
That makes sense. Each car between you and the leader is this one more chance of the train breaking up.
Exactly. And you can just see that how many drivers have actually have a lot of hurt from that. Marcelo Pagnan, however, in P6 currently, the Italian is having a very good race after a very bad qualifying, already making up 7 positions. And although he was 1.1 seconds behind Burrell Smith, I think that if the Italian just keeps it together like he's currently doing, he will catch the draft very soon and make it a 6-car battle for the lead. Yeah,
that gap under a second now between Smith and Pajan. And he's going to bring Van Opsel with him, I think, although Stefan a little bit off the pace. But then a big gap of a second and a half back to Pignot in 8th position. Why don't we look at those guys real quick because they come down the straight. The French driver, the Bay State Hammer, Tom Ratchie in 9th, Fitters on the outside. The amateur, Eric Coleman, trying to find somewhere to put that cow machine.
Yeah, and Eric Coleman, of course, has all the right to be here. He's doing this on speed alone, and in a pack race, well, it's just a little bit easier to drive with the pro drivers. But currently, Eric Coleman is one of the drivers that is very happy with how things are going. He's in front of Jacob Tofts, the P2 driver in the M Championship. He's leading him by almost 4 seconds, so that's already a very big gap in lap 5.
There you can see all 5 cars on the same shot. That's a good one. Love that camera shot there. And that's Fittis trying to make a peek, and he gets it done. So Fittis goes around Tom Ratchie, move Fittis up into 9th.
And P15 behind him, Travis Schwenke is going side by side to turn 6 with Nick Thiessen. Travis Schwenke, of course, got looped around, has lost the draft, but he's again retaking positions.
And Hunt now is back in front. They're swapping. They're just swapping back there. Director, I'm going to jump you around. Let's go back to 17th where we were looking. I just got a bad feeling about this one. We have a couple guys on different agendas. In 15th is Jacob Tuff leading the way. Then you got Artem Koralski. Remember, he's fast but had that spin. You got Kip Steven, an amateur driver, and Anwar. Vernew there, a new driver back in there, another amateur fighting it out. I thought that was Smith, but it is not.
And they're very close together. They have the mind, luckily enough, to at least keep a single file while they go through the kink. But especially Artem Korolsky is on the warpath. Last time around, with 1:33, you can just see that the two drivers behind him are really enjoying the draft. Kip Stevens doing a 32 last time around, able to stay with him. Artem Korolsky, of course, got looped around, qualified all the way in P7, but now only driving P16.
That's Kip Stevens in that beautiful blue and white machine. That's really pretty. Swift Cooper. That's what that car is sponsored by. Oh, that's a nice looking car. Up front, I don't mean to be nonchalant about this Cavalier, but it's Vol now making a move on second position. Huntwell out in front.
Yeah, you can just see that Marcelo Pagnan and Stefan van Opstal have both caught the draft and are now in that lead car battle. 7 cars for the lead. Even though Daniel Hent is leading them by 0.7 of a second, I think that Shepilevsky and Tom-Erik Vol wants to go single file again and quickly draft to the current race leader.
Well, with Pajan and Van Opstal catching up, you may ask, was there a chance of anybody else? Maybe, I don't know. Jean-Franc Pignot is back in 8th position, but he's got, oh my goodness, about 2 seconds to gain, and he's got no friends.
Yeah, that second car train is actually a little bit stretched out. You can see Pignot with Fiddes behind him. Tom Retsch is being overtaken on the outside by Erik Koeman, or at least Koeman is trying a move. Get caught out there on the exit of turn 5, and that immediately gives the opportunity for Dexter Castro to at least take a look on the inside of turn 6. But this group is getting a little bit stretched out.
Let's get a quick replay of Van Opstal. This is that accordion effect again, going into corner 6. He gets into the back of Marcelo Pajan pretty darn hard. This is a pretty good shot on the back of the Italian.
That's the next turn going into turn 6 there. And just look immediately after the incident how much track position he loses. They hit each other, that's quite a bit of damage as well for Marcelo, but look at the track distance that he immediately loses. And that means that Jean-Franc Pignot, the leader of that second train, has caught up with Stefan van Opstal.
I hope the Italian didn't have any eggs in the trunk.
Absolutely, well, the one who's currently counting his eggs is Daniel Hunt, because look at the gap that he has, especially while Shepilevsky and Tom-Erik Vol are fighting going into Canada corner. Both cars having to go side by side here for Van der Valley in the Bill Mitchell band as well. This is great news for the UK and I driver who can just drive away.
Yeah, Sonny Ketchen back there in 4th has to be saying, guys, let's get organized here. 1.5 seconds from Shepilevsky to Hunt now.
I agree, but if that's the case, then Sonny Kenshin, I would say to him, like, make the move and go forward yourself and lead by example. Coming over start-finish line, let's look at the gap. It's 1.5 seconds at the moment. That's a really big gap. That's almost big enough of a gap to lose the draft. And you can see Sonny Kenshin making a move on Tom-Erik Vol. He's having enough of it, and he tries to move himself forward into the train.
Yeah, Sonny, I don't Johan, I don't know if you mentioned it because I was multitasking, but we talked about the French driver Pignot. He's there now. He was out of it. He was long gone. He is now in that back of that train, and Fiddes is with him.
Yeah, actually, that accordion effect with Stefan van Opstal really has bunched or helped the drivers from that second group catch up to the rest of them. The second group was cut off, however, with Tom Batje, who's now the leader of the second group, in front of Erik Koeman and Dexter Castro.
Now, if you remember, on our first race at Bathurst, Daniel Hunt was challenging for the lead, but he didn't put in enough fuel, and he had to do a splash and go at the end. He says he's learned his lesson. He's worked on the math. He knows what he's doing. Right now, he is just he's stretching the gap. 1.9. Look at that number as it grows.
One of the things, though, that is really interesting to think about is it is incredibly difficult to calculate fuel when you have a draft race like this. For example, if you drive a Formula 1 race in one of the Formula 1 cars, you barely have any draft, and it's quite easy to know this is the amount of fuel I use per lap, and you can make your calculations with this. But with the MX-5, the fuel usage is so different if you are in the draft or not, that it can be that it's very easy to just underfuel or completely overfuel yourself when you make your pit stop. So Daniel Hunt is currently leading and extending his gap, but it actually might hurt him a little bit because it will be so much harder for him to make that calculation.
We'll take a look at Marcelo Pajan doing some interesting racing through the Wisconsin countryside. It's a beautiful track, and he thought he'd get a closer look at the foliage. Whee!
Well, no patches on the road for him there, but he has lost a little bit of time to Burrell Smith.
And just to drill down a little bit more on the fuel, because the MX-5 fills so slowly, you know, if you save, you know, half a liter of fuel, it makes a big difference in the time you're in the pit stops compared to Formula One where it goes in so fast. Boom! It
Absolutely.
Really matters here.
Yeah, absolutely. It can make a huge difference, and that is also maybe something that Daniel Hunt might hurt because he is leading. And well, last time around he extended his gap to 2.8 seconds, so it's going with giant leaps at the moment. But it actually might be disappearing very quickly while he makes his pit stop and has to stay in longer because he has used more fuel. The first driver that will put in fuel in this car is Gene Fitters, however. He comes in for his pit stop and he's stopping now at his pit crew.
That's the same thing he did. The New Zealand driver did the same thing last time out at Suzuka. Comes in early, and it worked for him. He ended up with a good result. I'm sorry, that was his very first race at Bathurst where he did that. Of course, he missed the second round.
Now let's write it down mentally where Gene Fitters was. He was in P9 when he made his pit stop, just behind Jean-Franc Prenois. So let's see where he comes out, or where he is when the rest of the field makes the pit stop.
Boy, that battle continues back there, and our three-time champion, Sonny Kenshin, is right in the heart of it. He races in second behind Chepelevsky right now. But Smith, Pajan, Vall, and these guys have gotten into each other. They've many a banged-up trunk.
They have, but it's also it's difficult to race with them because it is a big chance that you have some damage, but also you need each other. You need each other for that draft to fuel save and to have a chance. Sonny Kenshin, however, with his speed might actually be doing a good job while trying to undercut the rest of the field a little bit and trying a few laps without having a lot of drivers around him. Because at the moment, look at the gap between Daniel Hunt and the rest of the field, 3.2 seconds already. Daniel just keeps extending and extending that gap.
Hunt out there cooking with hot fish grease. That's what my dad used to say. My goodness, yeah, he has opened it up. Let's look at, let's go to 9th position, and Tom Ratchey. He's got a shot. He's about 2 seconds back to get to Van Opstroll. But that's what I said about Pignot, that he'd had no chance to get there either. So Ratchey trying to bring along Coleman and Castro.
Yeah, I'm looking at the last lap times, and last time around Tom Ratchey was around as quick as the drivers in front of him. It seems like the quickest lap times of Tom Ratchey are a little bit quicker than the group in front of him if he doesn't fight. He's going to the pits though, and Eric Koeman is following him. Just in front of them, Burrell Smith is also making his pit stop. And this will be very good news for both Eric Koeman and Tom Ratchey, who will be making a pit stop together and then can draft with each other after the pit stops as well.
It'll be and some of the drivers, I can hear Travis Swinkie coming over the microphone now saying, "Let me be in front. It's better. It works out better that way." It'll be interesting to see how those guys who took that pit, how they've come out in relationship to Fitters. Fitters taking that same racing line that the Italian driver Pignot took earlier. Pajan, actually Marcelo Pajan coming over the microphone now saying, "We're losing a lot of time, guys. Let's stop fighting." We look at Fitters, the New Zealand driver. There you can see on the right side of your screen, I think that was Ratchey coming out.
Yeah, Burrell Smith in front of him is already quite a ways ahead now. Of course, Burrell Smith was P5 when he made his pit stop. Gene Fitters was only P9 when he made his pit stop, but I think that with that little off-track that he had, with his little off-road racing in his outlap after his pit stop, he has lost valuable time and also the connection to the driver in front of him.
To Smith, yeah. Smith now in 18th overall, 1.6 seconds ahead of Fitters, who's got about 6 seconds on Ratchey, but we really didn't expect Tom to be able to do that. He was farther back.
Tom-Erik Vol there just overtook Steven van Opstal in turn 8, almost coming together, losing valuable time to Jean-Franck Benoit. Not enough to lose the draft there, but that was maybe one of the positions that you want to force the issue and make an overtake. Because just look at the cars in front of him, look at the gap to the cars in front. Tom-Erik Vol really has to focus and make sure that he closes the gap as soon as possible to not lose the draft to the rest. Sonny Kenshin is trying a move on Shepilevsky in Canada corner. Now he finally forces the issue and is leading that second group. Shepilevsky immediately covering the inside not to let Marcelo Pagnan pass. The Italian almost forcing the issue there. Shepilevsky has to go wide through Bill Mitchell bend. Single foul again through the last corner.
There has been a lot of conversation during the race about let's get it together here. Now Sonny Kenshin out in front. Interesting enough, some of the forum postings between Hunt and Kenshin after round 1 was fluorescent. Let me put it that way. It was very colorful, and we'll see how this plays out now. Hunt really showing what he's got today,
and especially when you're fighting with the other drivers. Now Sonny Kenshin has to defend the inside of turn 1. Now they will already lose him 1 or 2 tenths of a second. Here on the exit he goes off track, also losing him a tenth on the exit. Immediately under pressure by Shilevsky, who tries a move on the inside there. And this is already half a second to a second that Sonny Kenshin has lost, while Daniel Hunt can just focus and do his qualifying laps all like he's alone in the world. Look at it going 3 wide now. Sonny Kenshin on the inside, Jean-Franck Benoit in the middle, Steven van Opstal on the outside. Steven van Opstal choose the better of it. Just lets himself drop back, but in front of him 2 cars are going too wide, 4 cars are going too wide.
Eric the Red. Oh no!
That's Jean-Franck Benoit. Oh, that was just... He came out of that corner and Marcelo Pagnan, I think, went maybe a little bit loose. Small wiggle from the Italian. At least he was on a point on the track where the Frenchman didn't expect him. And well, you can see here in the replay, Benoit just hard into the wall.
That's a tough one because the Italian driver was really wide off the racing line, and so he tried to come back on the top. I'm talking about Pagnan, and maybe he just didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, this is a really difficult one to judge.
I can report that Vol took his pit stop. He cycles out behind Fittis and Smith. Hunt up by 6 seconds. Johan, I don't understand how that's doable. I don't understand. Is the battling that Kenshin and Shepilevsky are... I guess it's slowing them down. Usually 2 cars should be faster.
Yeah, exactly. But as 2 cars, you are faster if you're working together. But you could just see at the beginning of this lap, in the battle between Sonny Kenshin and Shepilevsky, that they're not working together. They're battling like it's the last lap of the race, and that's just costing him so much time. Daniel Hunt is currently making his pit stop, and soon we'll be able to figure out how much that battling has cost Sonny Kenshin and Shepilevsky. Sonny Kenshin and Marcelo Pagnan also making the pit stop, as is Steven van Opstal behind them.
All right, now if you're a fan of this series, you know that Kenshin is the best at calculating fuel. And if you watched a little bit of the season, you know that maybe that might be Hunt's Achilles heel. So we'll see how it plays out. My dad used to say, if you got the fastest car out there, you don't need to be fancy. I don't think Daniel Hunt really needs to cut it short here.
The only thing that might hurt Daniel Hunt here as it comes to a halt for his pit stop is the fact that he was alone all that time. He didn't have a drafting buddy, so he has to put more fuel in his car than his rivals that came in later.
Sure enough, you see them all going up on the left side. Okay, Hunt is rolling.
Oh, look at that gap. Oh, Marcelo Pagnan actually overtook Sonny Kenshin in the pit stops.
Yeah, and there goes Fittis by. Fittis gets Kenshin. Fittis gets, that's Pagnan. Nice run from the New Zealand driver. Here comes the Italian driver back on him.
Now I orthodoxly started to count in my head how many seconds. I think there's around 5 seconds between Daniel Hunt and Gene Fitters. Nowadays it's Marcelo Pagnan, but it's still quite a bit of a big gap. Of course, he has lost almost 2 seconds, Daniel Hunt, but still 5 seconds. That's not a gap that you bridge easily, especially if these cars keep fighting like they were doing at the beginning of the race.
So let's look in the box how long they were there. Hunt in there for 16 and a half. Pagnan in there for 16 and a half. That feels pretty good. Kanchan for about the same. Fittis, 14.1. That maybe explains why he is up as far as he is.
He's being overtaken. We could just see by Sonny Kanchan, Sonny and Marcelo immediately distancing themselves from Burrell Smith and Gene Fittис on the way to close down that gap towards Daniel Hunt.
Top 4 drivers still yet to come in. Two of them are amateurs. Kip Stevens and Jacob Toff. They race 3rd and 4th. Our leader right now, Stelian Chepolevsky, he still needs to make that stop. And Nick Thyssen racing in 2nd. We'll give you an update on the AM Championship as soon as those other drivers take their pit stop, but clearly the class of the field has been Burrell's. No, who would it be? I thought it would be Matthew Smith, maybe. Let's see there. I spoke too soon. Kip Stevens racing, but he still needs to make a stop.
I think the leader in the amateur championship is Erik Koeman. Once the rest once the rest has made the pit stop, he will be leading. But talking about pit stop, Chepolevsky is coming in for his pit stop. He was, of course, in that battle with Sonny Kanchan and Marcelo Pagnan. Let's see where he will come out. Marcelo Pagnan and Sonny Kanchan are coming across the last corner now. Chepolevsky is still putting some new tires on.
Hunt goes by.
That one lap has hurt Chepolevsky, I think. He's coming out now, so he can now speed up. Sonny Kanchan and Marcelo Pagnan are on full race speed. He stays in front of them, but just barely.
Good stop, though.
Exactly, so let's look at the lap times. Last time around, Sonny Kanchan did a 3:04.6, Daniel Hunt a 3:04.4. So even though that they're in the draft and working together maybe, Sonny Kanchan is still not as quick as Daniel Hunt at this moment.
Daniel Hunt with a 6-second lead on Sonny Kanchan. With 7 laps to go, that's a tall order.
Very close there, Marcelo Pagnan. Oh, just cutting in front of Chepolevsky. Door banging going into turn 5. Chepolevsky is drawing the short straw because he immediately being put under pressure by Burrell Smith.
There's our AM leader that we were looking for. Not only is he leading in the amateurs, he's picking up some big points. He is well out in front. Well, with the pit stops out of the way, you know what it means. Oh, we're still waiting. It's not time for our trips back marker shout out yet as we continue to wait for Jacob Toffs, our leader, to come in. And I don't know if he is going to be coming in. He's going incredibly slow.
Yeah, he is out of fuel. Or did he blow an engine maybe earlier? I think he's out of fuel though, yeah. Man,
Cinderella stays too late at the ball.
Yeah, and especially in this part, going uphill. Whew.
Yeah.
He has enough fuel though to lose.
It does not get easier from here.
Yeah, luckily for Jacob, he has enough fuel to make it through this area, but ouch, that will lose him a lot of time. Because Daniel Hunt is only a few meters behind him, so he will not even have the honor to lead a lap here at Road America.
But he's going to get to his box.
That's the important thing. As we can see, Daniel Hunt is coming over start-finish line. Now this time around, once again, I'm very interested in his lap times compared to Sonny Kanchan and Marcelo Pagnan. Daniel Hunt doing a 32.8. Sonny Kanchan behind him. He does a 33.3. Marcelo Pagnan 33.6. Daniel Hunt is gapping these two other drivers.
Kanchan currently in second. Pagnan, Chepolevsky, second, third, and fourth. They got a little bit of gap back to our amateur. Burrell Smith, Gene Fittis is racing in 6th. Hopefully he has enough fuel to get to the end. A really fast pit stop. Tom Eric Vall, after starting on the pole, racing in 7th. All right, now what we'll do with that pit stop out of the way, it's time for the fan favorite segment. Johan's going to try it again. It's the trip back marker shout out. I guess you guys are going to start on the last car on the lead lap. Like, who would that be? Would be Matthew Smith, I guess?
Yeah, Matthew Smith is the last car on the lead lap at the moment. He started at 22nd position, currently still driving at 22nd. Matthew Smith, well, one driver in front of him, Renaud Lefebvre. The French driver currently in 21st position, winning 2 positions so far. A little bit better just in front of him is Joe McDonald. The driver has won 5 positions, currently in P20. Jamie Bernot is in 19th, also winning 5 positions. He's a little bit behind Derek Holland, who was driving in 18th. Jordi Fike driving at the moment in exactly the same position as he qualified in P17, but he's in a battle with P16. He's in a battle with David Hampson just in front of him. In front of that group is Erik Koeman, was leader in the amateur championship. He is now chasing Kip Stevens, who has taken over that lead.
Yeah, Kip now up there. And that does it. That's our trip back marker shout out. I'm a little jealous. I've been doing that for years, and I don't know if I ever did it that well. Nice job, Johan. Look at that. Kip Stevens now racing in 13th spot. Coleman must have had an issue. He's now...
Yeah, I'm looking at his lap times. I cannot really see any odd one out there. I just have been that Kip Stevens was in the draft when Erik Koeman made his pit stop. Erik Koeman, of course, was coming in at the same time with someone else. So.
Yeah.
Just in front of the...
There.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. We're looking there at our... Well, not our leaders, though. We're looking at Kanchan up in front with Pajan, Chepelevsky coming at you. Chepelevsky taking a little peek to the inside. Third in line.
Just a quick update, because this time around Sonny Kanchan has thrown down the hammer. Look at those last lap times between Sonny Kanchan and Daniel Hunt. Sonny Kanchan did a 32.2, Daniel Hunt a 33.7. That's 1.5 seconds that Kanchan has won on Daniel Hunt. And if my math serves me right, with only 4 seconds between them, there will be 3 laps and he's on their tail.
Yes, indeed. That gap at 4 seconds right there.
Yeah, of course, Sonny Kanchan has shown in qualifying that he can be this quick. He did a 31.9 there. But Daniel Hunt was not that much slower in qualifying, less than a 10th. So Daniel Hunt not able to really drive the pace as he could in qualifying, while Sonny Kanchan can go quite a bit closer. But what about Marcelo Pagnan, Bill? Of course, Daniel Hunt and Sonny Kanchan started well, both started in the top 3 and are driving there now. Marcelo Pagnan has made up 10 positions this race to currently drive 3rd.
And they're just riding on the tail of Sonny Kanchan. Take us up to the front. Pajan and Chepelevsky. I want to check in real quick with our amateurs, because that's settled down a little bit. We're going to jump to the driver in 13th position. This is Kip Stevens. He's up 7, racing in 13th. Now he's got Hampson between him and Erik Koeman. Koeman is back in 15th. And I'm showing Koeman actually in 17th. Did he lose? Is he losing more? He's got Jordi Fike right behind him. Now,
Koeman actually lost a little bit. Let's see.
My timing and scoring is a little bit off. I got...
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, Erik Koeman actually had contact in turn 1 this time around with Jordi Fike. And the Dutch driver went for a little spin. He got a hard hit.
Ah, that's it.
Side by side for turn 1. Lost quite a bit of time there, Erik.
We're going to look at it one more time. So you might be answering, why do we care? Well, this is the AM Championship that we think is so exciting here, and these guys are fighting. Ooh, that's a good hit.
Yeah, he's lucky that he doesn't have some suspension damage to go with that. But this is like wheat on the mill for Kip Stevens, who was not only leading the M Championship, but is also leading the M Championship in this race. And he's not being threatened by other drivers in that championship behind him.
Back up front. If you're marking this down on your clipboard, you little soldiers in Super Clipboard's army, that gap now 3.3 seconds from Hunt to Kanchan.
Again, 1.2 seconds that Daniel Hunt has lost on Sonny Kanchan. Marcelo Pagnan has lost 1 position. Chequered took that away from him. But those drivers, all the way down to Gene Fitters, that is, in P7, are still all in the race for a podium spot.
They spent exactly the same amount of time in the pit box, but remember, before the pit stops, Hunt was leading all by himself. Kanchan spent the majority of the time before the pit stop behind guys, saving fuel. Maybe Hunt's trying to nurse it.
Yeah, that could very well be it. Of course, he was all the time alone. He couldn't save fuel. Man, at this point of the race, you just know that once Sonny Kanchan, Pagnan, Chequered catch up with you, it will be extremely difficult to keep them behind.
Johan, you did the math earlier that you put Kanchan getting there at the last lap. I'm not sure it's going to take him that long, the way he is closing.
Yeah, exactly 2.7 seconds between them. The calculator means he has won 7 or 8 tenths of a second this time around. And if he keeps that up, Bill, that might actually be the last lap, or maybe not at all. But of course, we'll have the draft at one point, and that will help him win extra time. But look at Sonny Kanchan, because Chequered behind him is almost saying, like, no, I don't care that you want to catch Daniel Hunt. I want to get a P2 position from you now.
Yeah, they've got to behave. If they have any chance of winning, they've got to figure it out. If they're going to make a pass, they got to do it where they don't hinder each other going into the corner.
Marcelo Pagnan getting a little bit loose there on the braking in turn 14. Now let's see what Chequered actually chooses to do. If he stays very neatly behind Sonny Kanchan, or if he says, no, I think I'm quicker than you, and tries to overtake.
Kanchan, I think, making the point clear that he would prefer not to be overtaking is takes that defensive line.
Pagnan. Yeah, Pagnan wants a position. Or at least only takes a little look.
He knew better.
Tom Merrick full going wide there, going over the grass. That's at least an off track. Chequered back in position.
It was Jean earlier in the race that came over the microphone acting as air traffic controller, trying to get guys to settle down so Hunt wouldn't pull away. 2.5 seconds with over just 2.5 laps to go.
While we're looking at this battle, maybe we can hop to P8 at the moment, in basically the battle for the next pack that there is. Travis Swanky is currently trying an overtake on Nick Viesen. It's the battle for P8. And behind him, Artem Korolski and Stefan van Opstel are also side by side going to turn 5. Stefan van Opstel braking very late, just getting his car slowed down. Almost rear-ending Nick there.
And I think all these guys were in that original train that was about 13 cars long until they had issues.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only newcomer in that one is Kip Stevens, who has made up quite a bit of time at the pit stops and after that.
Yep. And Tom Ratchey trying to get back in there as well. The gap to the leader now, I was going to say under 2 seconds, but that really wouldn't do it justice. How about 1.6?
Exactly, and if it's under 2 seconds, especially if it's this much under 2 seconds, you know that he is in the draft. Sonny Kanchan will really profit from this on the straights, and will close the gap down even quicker. Ooh, sorry, Daniel Hunt is going very wide there through Canada corner, almost going over the gravel.
Cost him a ton of time.
Yeah, exactly, because the gap immediately is under a second.
We'll go ahead and get a quick replay, and we better hustle on this one because Kanchan is coming.
Yeah, you can see on your F3 screen that Sonny Kanchan is getting closer and closer and just maybe cracking a little bit under pressure, and that gives Sonny Kanchan an opportunity, because look at them going over the start-finish line. Well, he's 100% in the draft now. Will Sonny Kanchan immediately force the issue and try and move here in turn 1? He's in the draft though. He's moving a little bit to the right to show Daniel Hunt that he is there. Stays there though. He brakes a little bit later and a little bit earlier, slots back in.
Yeah, the drivers behind the leaders trying to position themselves so they can make a run.
Hunt maybe a little bit overdriving there, going wide in turn 1. Really feeling the pressure now. Again kicking up dust on the exit of turn 3. Look how close Sonny Kenshin is now. The gap is under 0.2 of a second. But several drivers want that P1 position as well, including Panyan and Chepielewski. Sonny Kenshin makes it side by side now. He's on the inside line, the preferred line for turn 5. Chepielewski tries to make it 2 moves for the price of 1. Daniel Hunt brakes a little bit later, tries to make it swing around the outside, earlier on the throttle, but not early enough because Sonny Kenshin has his nose in front now. Will be able to brake later here as well. Has the inside line. Marcelo Panyan touches Daniel Hunt. Marcelo Panyan touches Hunt around.
Hunt is not going to be happy about that one.
No, and I can understand that though, because Marcelo Panyan was nowhere near the apex of that corner and just understeered Hunt off the track.
So that allows Kenshin to be out. You see it right there. Hunt on the outside gets turned around.
Yeah, Marcelo Panyan should have been at least 1 car width more to the inside of the corner, and that really hurts Daniel Hunt in his bid for the victory today. Now luckily for Panyan, he hasn't lost the draft to Sonny Kenshin. Sonny Kenshin is back in the lead.
And Hunt takes a tow. All right, so now Kenshin out in front. Pajan Chepielewski making a move on him. All in the blue car watching as they try to get a little bit closer. Oh no! Was that? Oh, that was Chepielewski that maybe gave a little assist to Pajan and put him off.
Yeah, let's go to a replay of that incident. We've seen that you bump draft a little bit here, but this was not bump drafting anymore. This was just braking too late from Chepielewski, sending Panyan into the wall.
That's some ugly racing, not typical of what you see in the MX-5 World Tour. Ball inherits second position. Burrell Smith gets third. Hello! And Smith is in the pits.
Oh no, short fueling on the last lap. That gives back third position to Marcelo Panyan at the moment. But he's being drafted all the way down towards turn 1 by Chepielewski.
The white flag is out.
Yeah, and you were saying about inheriting the Tom-Erik Vol inherited second place. I almost say that Sonny Kenshin inherited first place here as well, because he has no one to fear in this last lap.
I can report that Tom Ratchey got into an incident. He lost many positions right when all that excitement was happening up front.
Yeah, he had contact with Kip Stevens in that battle. What was for P8, looking now, I think that's a battle for P5. Actually, a big battle now. Steven van Opstal is being put under pressure by Travis Swanky, who tries a move. It's also Artem Korolski, who's trying to send the car there on the inside.
And 2.
Yeah, and Nick Thiessen also, yeah. Steven van
Opstal.
3. Oh, and look in front of them. Those are Marcelo Panyan and Chepielewski, extremely slow with their damage. They're being completely stopped.
That didn't work. Going off in the grass is Pajan.
This is now a battle for third place. Chepielewski is being put under pressure by Travis Swanky and Artem Korolski. Artem Korolski was being looped around in the first lap of the race. Now actually has his sights set on the podium. He only needs to win 2 more positions to grab the champagne at the end of the race.
Woo! A lot of elbows flying. Sonny Kenshin going through the kink right now. Our leader up by 2.4 seconds. Tom-Erik Vol safely by himself if he has enough fuel. The excitement is for third.
Yeah, exactly, because this is probably one of the best last overtaking positions. Travis Swanky in the draft now on the run down towards Canada corner. He's taking a look on the inside. There's no car behind him. Artem Korolski not able to make it 3 wide. Side by side for Canada corner. Travis Swanky makes it stick. Chepielewski goes a little bit over the gravel, but he chooses to stay his car side by side through the Bill Mitchell bend.
And now we got to go up front because he's out of the final corner. Sonny Kenshin, nothing but a straight line between him and the finish line. Give round number 3 to Sonny Catch Me If You Can't. And Tom Eric Voll's going to get second. Let's go back to third.
Yes, because it seems that Cheplievski is completely losing power. Travis Swank is getting past him. Artur Kolowski is also getting past him side by side, drafting to the finish line. I think it is Travis Swank coming home with P3.
What a comeback. We'll get a replay from up top.
13 thousandths of a second between the two. Kip Stevens also able to overtake Cheplievski before the line, coming home in P5, the amateur driver.
Look at that finish. Swenke gets third. Kurowski gets fourth. Kip Stevens, Cheplievski has to settle for sixth.
Look at Marcelo Pagnan. He only comes home in P10 with that heavily damaged car, almost being overtaken on the line by Gene Fiddis. By Steven van Opstal.
For an MX-5 World Tour event, it was a bit messy, but it didn't lack in excitement. The racing is over here. Our broadcast is far from done. We'll be back in a few minutes to run down the entire finishing order, talk to some of the drivers before we put a lock on the gate. Don't go far. This is the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of the Heusinkveld MX-5 World Tour, round number 3 from Road America here in the 16th season. Oh, it was exciting, it was eventful, it was maybe a bit messy. The finishing order is Sonny Kanchan runs down Daniel Hunt to get the win. Tom Eric Voll finishes second. Travis Swenke and Artem Kurowski go third and fourth. Kip Stevens, our top amateur, Stevens in 5th position. Going to be a great point state from him. Stelian Cheplievski runs out of fuel, has to settle for 6th, just ahead of Nick Thiessen. Here's the Sheriff, Jordy Fike, a top 10 finish in 8th, our second best amateur. David Hampson in 9th, rounding out your top 10, Marcelo Pajan.
Yeah, the first driver outside of it, Steven van Opstal. He was almost in the top 10 though, less than a tenth between him and Marcelo Pagnan when they crossed the start-finish line, but just not enough for Steven. In P12, one of the drivers that lost out in the final few laps, that's Anwar Barul Smith, comes home in P12 in front of Derek Holland. Derek having a good race, winning 6 positions in the process. Erik Koeman is the fourth driver in the Amateur Championship today. He finishes in 14th position. Gene Finnis was doing well, had a different pit stop strategy, making a very early pit stop. Didn't pay off for him though. He comes home in 15th. Jamie Bernot is classified as 16th, just in front of Renal Lefebvre and Matthew Smith. Two drivers that are not on the lead lap anymore. Daniel Hunt, who led almost the whole race until he got spun around, classified in P19. And Tom Ratje just retiring just before the end of the race.
In 21st, Joe McDonald. In 22nd, Dexter Castro. In 23rd, Jacob Koff. 24th spot goes to Jean-Frank Pignot. Steve Heffert in the quarter-century mark. Then the last 4 drivers in the field, Mick Berry, Eric Garcia, not sure if these last guys even started, Mick Watson, and Adam McNally. Okay, there you have it. I think we had 26 take the grid, and we'll give you 26 now. Let's go to our interviews, and I'm gonna let Johan talk to Eric Coleman, who was really doing well in the amateur class. Things went south for him. Johan?
Yeah, exactly. Well, welcome to the booth, Erik. I kind of wanted to ask you. You had such a great opening part of the race. You were leading the amateur class, and after the pit stop, you fell back. What went wrong today?
I terribly messed up my pit stop. I was actually aiming for Tom Ratje. He was going in front of me. I'm going to follow him in pit, then stay in his draft and take it easy. You know, I was first in AM, and then I kind of messed up the pit stop. Short fuel because I followed Tom, and yeah, well, downhill from there.
I see. So in the end, did you have to make another splash and dash as well, or?
No, actually, I was sputtering over the line.
Oh, exactly. Well, that's heartbreak. Well, let's talk a little bit about the beginning of the race, because it was going so well for you. What was really your strategy or your secret today? Because you were miles ahead of the rest of the amateur drivers.
Yeah, actually, I had the speed, so all I had to do was follow the pro pack and stay in the draft, and that was actually the plan. And it worked out until I kind of followed Tom Ratje, and I shouldn't have followed him to the pits. And that's where I made the mistakes a lot. I was kind of frustrated.
I can imagine that, especially since things were going so well. Now, you were P3 in the Amateur Championship going into this race. What are really your goals for this season? Are you going for the championship? Are you happy with a P3 position? What's really your goal?
My goal was to win it, and I must confess, in Stef Veenhoff, I had got a really competitive driver at Kip Stevens as well. So if I kind of can keep it clean without too much off tracks, I might have to. Might have some extra points from that, but I'm still aiming for the championship.
Very good. Well, we've only a few races in the books. There's still a lot to play for. Can I say congratulations for P4, or you're not that happy with it in the end?
No, I'm absolutely not happy for this one. I should have brought this home and win it. To be honest, the AM part, of course, because I can't touch the pros yet. But I should have win it. I messed up big time.
Well, it's a shame to see how it went in the end. You at least had a great run at the beginning of the race, and that's some positivity you can take forward. Erik Koeman, thank you for joining us in the booth, coming home P4 in the AM category and P14 overall today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have fun.
That was Erik Koeman. That was a good interview. Let's go ahead now and talk to Travis Swenke real quick. We bring Travis in here. There we go. Guys. Travis, you got a copy?
Sure,
this is interesting, Travis. I think you're going to be happy with your third place finish. Let's talk about the incident, and I don't think you're going to be that upset about that one, are you? It looked like you had to check up a little bit and got in the rear.
I mean, I'm upset about it because I spun, yeah.
Right.
But I'm not upset at any drivers. I mean, in those situations, you're kind of driving through the car in front of you. You're looking what's going on. I knew they were lifting, but yeah, I've driven behind Sonny enough. I thought he was starting to get on the power. I started getting on, and then I had to lift, and it was just a checkup. It's partially on me, for getting a little too close to Sonny coming out of the corner. And then, Gene didn't have anywhere to go. Gene netcode got me pretty good there, but it spun me. And I was mad at that, but I can't be mad at the finish for sure.
No, I'll be honest with you. I wrote you off. I go, well, maybe a top 5, top 10 for him. And then all of a sudden you just kept moving up.
Yeah, that was crazy. So, some of the guys were working with me well, and others it was a little hard. I was trying to talk to Nick because it was definitely better if I was in front at a turn 5. We would pick up time through that whole section if I was in front, and we'd lose it otherwise. So I was trying to make sure the one time I just waited, I had a run, I just waited so I could make sure I was in front there. And when you go side by side, then when a couple of braking zones, it just kind of ruins it. And I knew once they got we gained, I think, down to 4 seconds, we had it down to. And then it started opening up once it started racing and getting side by side. And I was like, okay, it's over now. Now it's just a fight for this position, which I thought was 5th or something at the time.
Yeah, this fell your way. Well, I'm going to cut this interview short because I know you're part of the IRT and you guys are going to have a busy day today. So I don't want to hold you up anymore. It's going to be a busy week for the IRT.
Yeah, at least we took care of one. One's done.
There you go. That's right. All right. Congratulations. We'll see you down the road.
All right. Thanks, Sue.
Travis Swenke, 3rd place finisher today. Let's see who else we have up here. Let's go ahead. We'll bring in Dexter Castro. We'll get Johan talk to him. And I'm not able to do it, Director. Can you do it for me?
Yeah, welcome Dexter to the booth. Interesting race for you. You had quite a good start, and you quickly caught up with the lead group, the giant battle with 13, 14 cars for the lead. What was exactly going through your mind at that point? Were you just trying to stay in the back and save a little bit of fuel, or were you trying to move yourself up the field as quick as possible?
Yeah, it was all fuel saving because, frankly, everybody ahead of me was either the same speed or quicker, so there was absolutely 0 point in battling. So I saved a ton of fuel just sitting there at the back, and I saved enough fuel that I actually, coming out of my pit stop, I nailed the pit stop just about perfectly, and I actually came out in front of Tom-Erik Voll, and I had enough fuel. So you can see he was right in the lead pack, so I was actually the lead pack sort of near the end of the first stint got separated from the mid pack, but I saved enough fuel and got the pit stop perfectly enough that I was in position to jump up into the lead pack, or well, I guess the lead pack behind Daniel. But I was in position to be in that pack that was about 2nd through 6th or so for a while. And with all the chaos at the end, I mean, really kicking myself for throwing away what really should have been a shot at a podium.
Yeah, exactly. Well, talking about this very quickly, you of course didn't see the checkered flag. What exactly went wrong in the final stages of the race?
Yeah, well, after that brilliant pit stop, I made it exactly 1 corner before I did the one thing that I always preach you should never do, and that was I pinched my line on exit to avoid an off track, and it, of course, it loaded the outside tire. I touched the grass, and I was into the wall. If I had just let the off track happen, just feather the throttle a tiny bit, I would have been absolutely fine.
I see. Well, it's a shame that your race ended like that. You at least, as you mentioned, you had a good fuel strategy. You had good speed, working yourself up the field. Are there positives that you're taking towards the next race in Spa?
Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, it's Spa. Well, I mean that has the potential to be even more attrition than this one. So I guess the same strategy will have to apply there. Just save as much fuel as I can. Hope I don't, get dropped off of the lead pack, or at least the people I'm drafting with have the good sense to not battle too much, so that we can make some good pace while I'm saving fuel. And hope for the best on the pit stop, because definitely, I nailed everything except for that 1 corner exiting the pits, and frankly, that's the most embarrassing and pathetic way you can take yourself out of a race, is trying to avoid an off track.
Yeah, it's a shame that it happened to you. It was at least good to see you out there today, Dexter. Thank you for talking with us.
Yep, thank you.
Dexter Castro, a long-time participant in the MX-5 World Tour for fans who don't realize he has raced at least once in each of the 16 seasons that the MX-5 has been around. Hey, that'll do it for us. Thanks to the Heusinkveld guys. Their affordable simulation software and hardware is thought to be of limited use in race teams and drivers, but their simulation solutions bring professional results within reach of any race team or driver without having to compromise on realism or engineering. They offer a broad array of products and services such as advanced vehicle simulation software and hardware. They are able to simulate any combination of race car and track, including a full-fledged cockpit environment with, here's this phrase again, unparalleled realism. Heusinkveld's solutions are currently being used by professional teams and drivers in Formula Ford, GP3, GP2, and Formula 1. Now these products are available for any professional team or driver looking for an edge in racing. Be a better race car driver, get in touch today. We'd also like to thank Sim Sports News for their help in sponsoring this wrap-up show. I had a plug to read, didn't I? But I didn't read it. Well, we'll get them next time. Hey, Sim Sports is great. Go ahead, check them out. They are really something else you'll find out about. They'll talk about this race really very good. Thanks to the company's equipment and software that you see on the screen now that we use on this broadcast. The original music that you heard on today's broadcast is thanks to Eric Eckelm and June Lalonde. See the screen to how to contact each of them. Here's the plug for Sim Sports. I'm just going to throw it in here. Sim Sports News is one of the first dedicated sim racing news websites that covers all broadcast series in iRacing, ran by Jacob Tufts and Gianni Quintier. The Sim Sports News race team competes in many iRacing series as well as the one that you've just watched. For more information, go to simsportsnews.com. Just do that. I've been there this week. It's really, really entertaining. Sliding across your screen now are just some of the broadcasts. Some of the broadcasts that are coming up, so check those out and mark them down. If you'd like more information about GSRC, including a complete list of future broadcasts, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel. Finally, and I mean that sincerely, on behalf of the entire crew, Johan, Amjed, and Dougie, I'd like to thank all of you for watching. With that said, we're off to have fun storming the castle. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.